Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I would like to say thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're a returning subscriber, you know that I really do love and appreciate you. Today I'm going to be answering the frequently asked questions I do get on this channel, and this is actually the pastry series. They call me Quinola. So apparently on this channel I've been getting a lot of questions as regards something that is pertaining to some of the things I use, the instruments, the tools, some differences, some similarities and all that. So I've actually been getting a lot of questions from you guys, and in this video I am just going to be answering at least 10 of them. Oftentimes I get questions as regards the type of preservative I use, and that is one of the reasons why I'm actually making this video. I use the Favorite Bright Choice, just like you're seeing here. So as you can see, this is the Favorite Bright Choice. This is the brand of preservative I use for my pastry. So the number 2 most frequently asked questions I get on my channel is the type of flour I use for my pastry. Now, most of the times I use the all-purpose flour. Now, the flour comes in different types. There we have the bread flour, we have the oat flour, we have the wheat flour, we have the self-rising flour, we have the quite a number of them, okay? But I use the all-purpose flour because it has the tendencies of doing what all of this flour broken down can actually do. You understand? So that is why I would rather prefer to use the all-purpose flour. But then again, it all depends on the type of pastry you actually want to create. If you want to create, if you want to use bread, you can actually go for your bread flour if that is what you can actually find. But the all-purpose flour works very fine for me. All right, yeah. So the third question I usually get on this page is actually if I use the soft flour or if I use the hard flour. So oftentimes I actually use the hard flour, and you can actually know this by the gluten content. You can also know this by the protein content. Now the hard flour has a higher protein content and a higher gluten content. For the hard flour, I think it is about 12%. Now you could get this fact from the packaging on your flours, right? You can just check, and then you're going to see the content of the gluten and also the protein content. Okay, so for soft flour, most times it has about 7 to 9% of gluten protein content in it, while for the hard flour it has about 12% or more. You understand? So it actually depends on the type of flour you are using. So how you will know there are some differences, right? One is dense in nature, the other is very pliable and very soft to work with. The hard flour, for example, requires more water, while the soft flour requires less water. That's why I always say it on the channel that anytime you are producing, try as much as possible to put in your water little by little until you get your preferred consistency. Reason being that if you do not add in your water little by little, chances are that you are going to ruin your pastry, or you end up adding in more flour, right, to your consistency if your consistency gets too runny and all that. So if you hear me say hard flour, soft flour, you having to know the type of flour you are using. It all boils down to ensuring that you have the right water content and water consistency. The fourth questions I am being asked frequently on my channel boils down to if one do not have cup, right, and maybe they get their measurements in buckets, right, what is best advised, and how many kg is a bucket of flour? Now, by experience, in fact, let me start with generally and normally, right, you are supposed to have about 3 kg of flour from a 4 liter paint plastic. Okay, a 4 liter custard plastic is supposed to give you about 3 kg of flour measurement. All right, but sometimes by experience, sometimes you could get 2.8 kg, while sometimes you could get 3.2 kg. All right, sometimes you get 2.8 kg, while sometimes you get 3.2 kg. So everything all boils down to where you are buying from. So if you are the type that you really do not have time to, start measuring when you get home, and you just want to measure everything out from the market, do not assume that your custard the custard measurement that they did for you, right, is actually the accurate measurement until they measure it at your front. Okay, so once it is being proven beyond reasonable doubt, then you can just go ahead to produce with that quantity. But generally speaking, every bucket of flour is supposed to give you 3 kg of flour, but sometimes you get 200 gram less in when it has to do with the measurement, or you get 200 gram more. Okay, so yeah, I hope that has actually solved it. So the fifth question I usually get on this channel when it has to do with the pastry series boils down to the meat pie dough measurement versus the sausage roll dough measurement. Now the truth is, you can actually use the meat pie recipe, or rather the meat pie dough recipe, for your sausage roll. Okay, so the only difference between the both of them is that one has a sugar content and the other one doesn't. Now, me for one, because we do basics here, I am not going to advise you add sugar to your meat pie dough recipe. All right, but I could actually encourage that for the sausage roll recipe. So in the kitchen, you just do you. All right, just like I always say, right, you do whatever it is that brings you happiness when it has to do with your dough, then you just do it. Okay, so can I use the same recipe, dough recipe? Of course, yes, you can. So the sixth question I get is, what if I add in a lot of sugar? How do I balance up the measurement? The answer is, kindly use salt. Okay, you can just sprinkle salt when you want to fry. So let me just give an illustration. If you use too much sugar for your chin chin recipe, the remedy that has worked for me, right, is for you to just sprinkle a little bit of salt in your oil while you are frying, and then it's going to balance up the taste of your chin chin. Okay, so yeah, use salt to balance up sugar. Another question I do get on this channel is, what is the difference between buns and puff puff? Now, the simple difference is that buns relies on baking powder and egg as the rising agent, okay, whilst puff puff relies solely on yeast as the raising agent. Okay, another thing is that because you are using yeast for puff puff, you need to wait a longer time, all right, so that it can proof for at least 30 minutes upwards, unlike buns that you can just go ahead to do your thing. You can decide to allow it rest for maybe 5 minutes after getting your batter ready. Okay, but usually we just go straight to frying buns. We don't have to wait, unlike puff puff. So I hope that has answered it. Number 8, Quinola, can I make this pastry at home? Of course you can, my darling. You can actually make these pastries at the confinement of your home. And if you notice, I have about 7 to 8 chin chin recipes from 500 gram to 10 kg. All right, I think it's only 3 kg and 1 kg and also 2 kg. Yeah, I haven't done on this channel, but I have other recipes from little quantities to when you are producing in bulk. So of course you can actually create these loving recipes at home. The only thing you just need to do is to divide the recipe. Now if you are making all the bulk recipes in smaller quantities, right, I'll just advise that you divide the quantity. All right, you just divide the recipe. So peradventure we are doing 2 kg of chin chin, and you just want to make 1 kg of chin chin. The measurement for chin chin is 2 kg of chin chin. The sugar is about 500 gram. Yes, 500 gram of sugar, right? all you just need to do is to divide it, and when you divide it by 2, that will be about, for 1 kg of chin chin now, you are going to be using 250 grams of sugar. So that is how easy it is. Okay, so just divide your recipe and you will do just fine. So another question I get frequently on this channel so far is, Quinola, can I, what do I do to, store my pastry to keep them fresh and all that? So I think it actually varies. It depends on the type of pastry you want to, keep. For example, if I'm going to say the likes of chin chin, the likes of peanuts, and all that, you can actually just go ahead to put them in a tight container, airtight container for that matter. All right, put them in an airtight container and you will do just fine. After adding your preservative and all that, you will do just fine. It can last really long, because if you do not put them in a an airtight container, once air enters all these things, they become, there's a way they taste. Okay, there's a way they taste and you may not necessarily like it. Okay, now for meat pie, let's say for example you are making meat pies today and maybe you want to eat it tomorrow or you want to eat it another day, just freeze them, put them in your refrigerator, and you are good to go. When you want to eat it again, just warm it. Okay, put them in your oven, you warm it. All right, so yeah, everything depends on the type of pastry you're actually making. And the last question for the day, actually this is not the last question. Okay, this is actually me just wanting to share with you guys from the wealth of my knowledge, out of experience, research and the likes, on what I feel will help you if you do not have a measuring scale. Okay, most of the times when I'm running my pastry, if you notice, I hardly measure with the measuring scale, especially when it has to do with the flour. Reason being that I already know the measurement by cups, and this would actually help you. All right, so like I always tell you guys, for 1 kg, every 1 kg of flour, right, you get about 8 cups of flour to get 1 kg of flour. So if the recipe is telling you do 1 kg of flour and you do not have a measuring scale, or you do not really have the time to use a measuring scale, just go ahead to do 8 cups of flour, 8 cups of leveled flour. Yes, I need to reiterate that. 8 cups of leveled flour. Now, moving to pastry. So I'm going to be giving you guys 2 pastry tricks, and this is for each and every one of you that are subscribed to my channel. And if you are just coming across this channel, like I said, right, thank you for stopping by, and I hope that you subscribe, you share this content if it really helped you, you like it, and then you also share your thoughts and let us have conversations, and also need more questions from you. Now, let me give you the tricks and the tips very quickly. For every flour content for pastries such as meat pie, fish pie, chicken pie, and even sausage roll, although sausage roll still has a bit of twist to making it, right, you could just go ahead to use half the flour content for your margarine recipe. All right, so this is what I mean. If you are to make 1 kg of meat pie, like 1 kg of dough for meat pie, right, half of it is actually 500 grams of margarine. Do you understand? So it's the same thing for chicken pie, it's the same thing for fish pie, it's the same thing for sausage roll, although there is a bit of twist to it, like I said earlier. That's, I mean, for sausage roll. But the others, right, you can just go straight to doing 1 kg of flour, then half of it is 500 grams of margarine. So for every, we could now say that for every baked item, it is half of it. That's if you want to get a crusty dough. All right, if you want to get a crusty dough. Now, another trick to this is that, because I'm an advocate for getting more with less, right, you could also do 1.2 kg and use 500 grams. The same 500 grams you're going to use for margarine, you could also use that same 500 grams of margarine for 1.2 kg. The same 500 grams you're going to use for 1 kg, you could also get the same or use the same for 1.2 kg. I hope you're learning something. So for chin chin, all right, it's going to be a quarter of your measurement. So a quarter of your flour measurement is what will give you the recipe for both your margarine and your sugar. All right, both your margarine and your sugar. For example, if you are going to be using 1000 gram, that is 1 kg of flour to produce your chin chin, you can go ahead to use 250 gram of sugar and 250 gram of margarine. So that is a quarter. But for the baked items, right, for the ones such as meat pie, like I already mentioned earlier, you can just go ahead to use half of the flour measurement. So I want you guys to go anywhere in the world and you should be able to produce, pastry in bulk or even in small quantities, knowing fully well that since you've learned this, it cannot be taken away from you. That's the good thing about, having to do videos like this, because since you've gotten this trick now, it can't be taken away from you. All right, so never forget that. And we have come to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Now I intend to do a video for you all as regards how to start a pastry business from the confinement of your home, but I need us to be more than this. Like, I need at least 2000 subscribers to be able to break this down, so that just to avoid repetitions and the likes, of which I know I'm still going to be doing on this channel a lot of times. Trust me, I am not tired of teaching you guys, because there is a lot to still unpack in this industry. So I'm going to be teaching you all how to cost your pastry, and how to get profit from it if you want to make it a business. And to those that are struggling in the pastry world, don't worry, Quinola is here for you. Okay, we have a long ride together, but I just need our community to grow more before I actually do a video on that. But for now, I would like to say thank you so much for watching, and I would definitely see you on the next one. I love you all. Bye.